Yeah, I would like to welcome you all to our online conversation circle, Tourism for Future, How Personalities Form Sustainable Tourism. My name is Anna Kodek from Naturefriends International, and I have the pleasure to guide you through the next hour. Today, I'd like to welcome Irvin Mujčić from Naturefriends in Bosnia and founder of the project Srebrenica, City of Hope. Then Christian Facchetti, president of Naturefriends Italy, who is involved in the project and visits Irvin once a year. And Fonger Huisman, who visited behalf of Naturefriends Netherlands, Irvin already several times. Before we start, I would like to inform you that we will record this event. So if you will not be seen, please make sure to turn off your computer camera. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to write them in the chat. We will collect them, and in the end, we have about 15 minutes time to discuss them. And in Zoom, you also will find the raise your hand function. So if you want to say something, please feel free to talk and use this function. Many of us still associate Srebrenica with pain and with the war. Irvin's goal is to change this attitude. So with his Srebrenica, the City of Hope, is his project. Irvin, hello.
Hello.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you for inviting.
Please, can you be so kind? My colleague will show you a map of the area to explain a little bit something of this area, and then also introduce to our guests your project, please.
Perfect. Of course.
So if we can have the map, please. Just a moment. So my colleague Cornelia will show you the maps, I hope soon. Yes, now. Thank you.
So it's perfect. We are in Europe we are on the planet Earth in Europe, in Bosnia, so in the Balkan region, Southeast Europe. Srebrenica is located in the east side of Bosnia, exactly on an area that is called the Valley of the Drina River, which is on the borderline actually with Serbia. So it's really on the borderline. The Drina River is by itself the borderline between the two countries. So half of the river is Bosnian, half of the river is Serbia already. Srebrenica is a little city that is located in the middle of a valley. From there, in order to arrive to Ekometa village, you have to ride on a mountain, which is called Viogor. This old road, it was made during the occupation of Bosnia by the Austro-Hungarian Empire. So it's going above this mountain Viogor, and then you turn down left and you enter the so-called Jadar Valley, which is the valley of the river Jadar, and then next to the river Jadar, there is the Ekometa village, which is completely in the middle of the forest, basically.
Okay. Thank you. And now I have prepared a small PowerPoint. So while you start explaining why you start the project, I will share my screen.
Perfect.
So does everybody sees it? Can you see the screen?
Yes, I can.
Okay. Just tell me when I should press the button, Irvin.
You can start it already. Okay. I can start to explain the project. So basically, in order to explain this project, I have to start a bit back in the history. So basically, around the end of the 19th, there is the end of the federal state of Yugoslavia, which was made by 5 countries. So Slovenia, Croatia, Bosnia and Herzegovina, Serbia, and Macedonia. It arrives to an end. There is the independence of the Slovenia. There is the independence of Croatia. In 91, there is a referendum in Bosnia. This referendum voted for the independence of Bosnia. Bosnian Serbs and Bosnian Croats didn't agree with that. So it started a war. This war lasted for 3 years, basically. In this war, there is a project that it was the one of the Great Serbia. So all the area of the East Bosnia was attacked and taken over by the Bosnian Serbs. In this area, only few places resisted. One of those few places was Srebrenica that managed to the attacks, and for 3 years was completely surrounded by the Bosnian Serbs without the possibility that no one can enter and no one can get out. In 93, there was a historical resolution of the United Nations. So basically, Srebrenica was declared as a safe area under the control of the United Nations. There were sent United Nations peacekeepers, first a Canadian battalion and then the Dutch bat. In 95, there was the project of the Bosnian Serb army to take over the 3 cities in East Bosnia that were Srebrenica, Žepa, and Gorazde under their control. So in July 95, Srebrenica was attacked. It was not defended and then led to the ethnical cleaning of the city and to what was a genocide. Basically, 8,372 persons were killed in 7 days of Bosnian Muslim origins. And it was declared by the International Tribunal as the first genocide in Europe. What happened after it was Srebrenica for the first time in its history from 95 to 2000 was a city that was completely controlled by only one ethnic group that were Bosnian Serbs. Our properties were taken over. So basically in our houses went to live other persons and it was forbidden to us to come back to live in Srebrenica. Only in the year 2000, after a tribunal case, our properties were given back and the first group of survivors started to go back to live in Srebrenica. It was not an easy process because there were still, let's say, conflict between the different ethnic groups. It was not seen as something good that Bosnian Muslims come back to live in Srebrenica, but somehow they did manage to come back to their villages, to their houses, and so on. This process was, let's say, a bit more powerful at the beginning because many Bosnian Muslims come back to live in Srebrenica from 2000 to 2005. There were many promises by politicians, institutions, and so on to reopen industries, factories, to give jobs to people. All those promises were not fulfilled. And then from 2005 and on, this city started again, let's say, to lose a population. Like if we look about numbers, like based on the census of 1991, in Srebrenica were living 37,666 persons. Today in Srebrenica are living less than 4,000 people, of which most of them are elderly people, as let's say younger people usually leave Srebrenica in this area. When the war started in 92, I moved with my family out of Srebrenica. First, we were in a central area in Bosnia as a refugee for 6 months. Then we moved to a refugee camp in Croatia for another 1 year. And then in August 93, we arrived in Italy. So I basically grew up in Italy as a child. I lived there for more than 18 years. And then only step by step, I was coming back in Bosnia. So the first time I went back in Srebrenica, it was in 2003. Then I came back in 2007, and then I came back in 2014. When I came back in 2014, it was for the first time that I participated in the so-called Peace March. Basically, it's a march organized in July, and it's walking the path that survivors of the genocide made to reach Tuzla when Srebrenica fell down in July 95. By arriving back to the city through the forest and through this march, I saw the situation in the city that was even worse than 7 years before. So I asked myself what was the role of my generation. So basically, we were lucky to not live the war period fully, and to not live the post-war period that sometimes is even worse than the same period of the wartime. In this reflection, I decided to go back to Srebrenica and started to make a new project in Srebrenica. And when I was there, I just started to hike in the area around. I had a lot of free time. I had the passion of hiking as I grew up in the Italian Alps. And I discovered something that for which usually Srebrenica is not famous, at least right now. So basically, I found a lot of wild areas around Srebrenica, a lot of mountains, a great canyon. And between that, it's also a lot of little villages that survived to wartime, where survivors went back to live, but also are villages in which I found back humanity. So basically, each time I was hiking and passing through a little village, people were stopping me, asking what I'm doing there, inviting for a coffee, giving me food, offering a bed to sleep, and things like that. So it was something that was also completely new for me. And it also gave me an idea that Srebrenica should not be only remembered for the genocide, for the wartime and everything bad that happened there, but it was also a way to highlight the courage of the people that survived the genocide and they came back to live there and live in this close contact with nature, following the tradition of their fathers, grandfathers, grandmothers, and so on, living in this so close contact with nature, with that land. It was something that was for me powerful to show to people. In one hand, because we live in a process in Europe that is the one that we leave the rural areas in order to live in cities. So basically, there is this process of moving from rural areas to city, like leaving the mountains. It's an example, for example, Italy, like the Apennino side. There are a lot of little municipalities that are completely empty because people left them in order to go to live in the cities. And we are living in this process of, let's say, climate change. So basically, the human action is destroying the climate of our planet, and we are paying a bigger price about that. I didn't know exactly at the beginning how to do this, because basically I had an idea that was to show another image of Srebrenica, but I didn't know how. Basically, I was lucky because in the place where I grew up in the Alps, next to that little place, there was a house of the Italian Nature Friends that is in Saviore della Damello. It's the house of that is called Alexander Langer. Alexander Langer was an Italian politician that in the 90s he was in the European Parliament, and he was one of the most active on the situation of the Bosnian War and in particular of Srebrenica. He made many appeals at the European Parliament about Srebrenica. They were not listened to, and after the fall of Srebrenica in 95, just some months after, he suicided. And basically the House of Nature of Alexander Langer was having the idea to make a project of a sustainable tourism in Srebrenica. So we started to have a contact in this contact center, and also Christian as the president of the Italian Nature Friends. I basically had a structure on which I work on, something that was already developed in Europe from a long time, and then somehow can fit in a really good way in Srebrenica. So basically, the beginning, we started to offer some hiking tours that were connecting different villages of Srebrenica. So it was also a way to involve the local community in the project. We were hiking, stopping in these little villages, involving the community by preparing, like, for example, lunch or dinner, or offering the possibility to sleep in that village for the hikers and groups that we were bringing. Let's say the project was going well. So basically, each year there were more people interested. Many newspapers start to speak about that in Bosnia, but also in Italy and so on. So at one point we decided to move to make another one step. That was the one to build a village in the middle of the forest. That is the village in which we have the most of our activities right now. It's called the Cometa. Basically, the idea behind that, it was to have a center in which to develop our activities by continuing all the other activities that we were doing before. We decided to do it, to build it in, let's say, the most natural way possible, and by following also, let's say, the old tradition of the area, as Srebrenica was a really famous area for working wood and wood construction along the different centuries. So we started this project. Actually, we started to build it in the moment in which the COVID pandemic started. So for 2 years, I was basically almost alone in this village with a few friends building it. We didn't have tourists, visitors, hikers in that period, so we could build the most part of the village. Today, this village is made by 6 houses in wood with a common space where people can cook, or where we cook, and so on. Is based on a feeling of, let's say, of a community sharing. Each houses can host from 4 to 5 person at maximum, and from that place we go to different place to hike, and most of them on the Drina Canyon. Then we are always passing in the villages where different people are preparing food and things like that. Another part of the village is, let's say, the strong living with that place in the nature. So basically, almost all the food that we prepare is natural for the 85–90%. So we have a little serra. We also cultivate other stuff, but also we use a lot, let's say, the resources that nature gave by itself. So herbs, fruits, mushrooms, and all these kind of things. Beside that, we do also a part of our project is based on, let's say, different cultural activities. So basically, from time to time, we organize, like, for example, arts residence. Like this year, we had a residence for writers. We also organize activity for children in nature. So we somehow, it's a strange word, but somehow we have to teach humans how to live in nature. We are living in nature in a way that it's so far away from it. We don't know anymore how to act in nature, what we can do in nature, what kind of plants are eatable, what kind of plants are not. A case is, for example, into the wild, he didn't know anymore at one point which plants he can eat, what plants he cannot eat, and he poison it himself. Living, let's say, so alienated from the natural world that when we take a person from the city and we put him or her in the woods, it's like that he or her come in another one world. And another one part of our activities are actually a part of genocide education activities. So we have many activities with the Italian high school, but also sometimes with the high school from Sweden. And basically, we are visiting the genocide memorial site of Srebrenica with a particular tour that, in one side, yes, is focused on the history of the genocide, so learning from it, but also on the outcomes of it. So we are also speaking about the after period. We are visiting some villages, some people living there that explain how is Srebrenica today. This project is also, let's say, starting from a Tibetan proverb. It's like a proverb that say that tragedy should not be, that tragedy should be used as a source of strength. It doesn't matter how much painful it is, how much difficult it is, but if we lose our hope, that's our real tragedy. And it is like a motto that is really important, because like if Srebrenica will not, let's say, live again, it's like in a way that the nationalistic way of thinking and the far-right way of thinking, it's like winning it again. Let's say the goal of the genocide and of the war itself was not only, from my point of view, the one to clean ethnically an area, but it was also the one that a different cultures, a different way of living doesn't match together. So basically, if today I come back or we come back as a group to Srebrenica and we hate the other one group and we don't have a contact in that moment, really the nationalistic way of thinking has a win. For that, it was important to create a space where different cultures, different people can melt together, can exchange, because only from the exchange of a different point of view, different way of living, you can enrich your culture, enrich your area. And the nature is the place where we can all meet together and exchange and create new synergies and new way of thinking.
Thank you.
You are welcome.
For your wonderful introduction. Now I would like to ask Christian Facchetti. Hello. Yeah. It's nice to meet you and thank you for taking your time. Christian, you visit Irvin's project once a year. How did you find out about the project and why do you support it? Please, can you explain it to us?
Oh, yes, thank you. Bye to everyone. Yes, I met Irvin for the very first time in 2015. And at the time, there was one of our local group based in Saviore della d'Amello, as he was explaining, as Irvin was explaining, but was leading a survey for a project how to introduce the Naturefriends movement in Srebrenica due to some collaboration with the local associations. That was the first time I met Irvin, and the second time was directly in Srebrenica when we have the first official travel of Naturefriends Italy, and it was showing us the location, the city, the area, and yes, what I can say, it was just the beginning. It was not so everything was clear to me, but it didn't took so much to hear what are the two main principle of this project. The first is the cry of a man that want to come back to his land, and is that kind of a feeling that I following since I was younger, as I started to travel, and especially I'm very interested in tribal people and the way they have to connect with the nature and with their land. And it sounds to me so similar that there was a man telling, I want to reconnect to my land. I feel that I belong to my land. I wanted to take care of my land. And this message to my eyes, it was so powerful that I couldn't resist to support it. And this was the first reasons why I moved and I supporting the project. And then there is also a very good and big challenge we have in front of us, supporting members of an international movement that is about sustainable tourism. Srebrenica actually is a city that is suffering by economical depression. A lot of people are just thinking when to move. For young people living in Srebrenica, maybe the future is going abroad to live, to work, and to gain enough money to survive. And the project of a touristic experience in Srebrenica can be very strong because it's not like other part of places in the world where the economical features are and the lifestyle is okay, and you can introduce sustainable tourism very easily. This is an experience where sustainable tourism can really play a part for the development of a city and can help people to find back the hope that Irvin was talking about. So this is the second principle that I have in front of me, and this is the reason why I go every year to find Irvin in Srebrenica. But don't forget about that it's also a nice place to stay in the middle of the wood. Is very relaxing, and you can always meet a lot of people and become friends very easily and very quickly.
Okay, thank you, Christian. And Fonger, our third guest, I also would like to welcome you. Please, can you explain in the Netherlands also support the program? How was the backgrounds the Netherlands played during the war? Maybe can you explain this a little bit? And also, I would like to know what is your personal impression of the project, Fonger, please.
Hello, Anna. Hello, everybody else. I envy Christian slightly that he can go there every year. I haven't been able to go to Ecometa every year, but I tried to go there as often as I can because it is indeed a really nice place to be, and it's a really good project to support as well. And the first time I went there was in early 2021, the year after the 25th anniversary of the memorial of the genocide. I'm sorry, 25th Memorial Day of the genocide. In 2020, the Dutch Friends of Nature started thinking about supporting this project because in the Netherlands, it plays a role. Srebrenica plays a role. It's in our collective memory. We hear about it at least once a year when the Memorial Day is, and that's because the Dutch were involved as a military power, and they played negative role, if you can put it like this. I don't want to judge. I don't know the exact facts. I don't know what exactly happened, but in the international community, and especially among Bosnians, the Dutch UN Pro power has a bad name, has a bad reputation because they failed to protect the 8,000 people in Srebrenica. It's a discussion whether or not they had any chance to do so, but they might have done more. I can't say, but we have a connection, the Dutch people. And I always knew Srebrenica. It was a name which rang a bell, and I knew slightly what happened, but mostly I knew about the Dutch side because the veterans who went there were traumatized, and they spoke about this in the media a lot. I didn't know that much about the other side, about the Bosniak side, about the things the Bosniaks had experienced. So I was really happy when Han, who's also here, invited me to go there and check out the project. to see if it's feasible, to see if it's something the Dutch Friends of Nature wanted to support. So I went there, spent 2 weeks maybe a bit more in Bosnia, and most part of it at Irvin's place, because the village was not then yet realized. There were fundaments of the first buildings, but you couldn't yet live there. And I spoke a lot with Irvin and made a report for NIVON, the Dutch Friends of Nature, I think in which I was mainly really positive about the project. And I hope I helped them make a decision in favor of the project. So they decided to support the project, specifically to support the construction of the mill. I don't know if you didn't mention it yet.
No,
but there's
not yet.
also a mill Irvin is still constructing, which is supposed to function as a mill for the whole community in the mountainous area over there, where farmers can grind their grain. And it's powered by water, so it's also really sustainable. My personal opinion of this project, as I already mentioned, really positive. For me as a Dutch person, I can only speak from this perspective, of course. It was also, I was a bit excited when I went there because I read some about the history, and I feared some people might not like me because of my nationality. Most people didn't. Most people were really nice and welcoming and open for conversation. I had one experience with somebody who had bad experiences with Dutch people because of the war, because of the genocide, but we also had a good conversation and parted as friends is maybe too big a word, but on a good basis. And I think it was mainly really good to go there for a Dutch person to connect with the Bosnian people, to learn more about what happened, to see the other perspective, and maybe to heal the trauma that's on both sides. It's of course a bigger trauma on the Bosniak side, but there's also some trauma in the Netherlands, some consternation about it every time we speak about it, because we also had a government that had to resign because of this. And there's also the question, what should and could we have done? And we still haven't answered this question. So I think it's really good for Dutch people to go there. Thus far, unfortunately, NIVON hasn't found a way to go there, but I hope we will be able to go there with NIVON, and mainly with younger people, with adolescents.
Okay, thank you, Fonger. My next question is to all of you. Irvin, Christian, Fonger, what impact has the project for the local population? What tribe live there? And also, what obstacles did you have, or do you still deal with the project? Who would like to start? Maybe Irvin?
Okay, it's perfect.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, let's say the positive impact of the project is the one that we are bringing new person inside the Srebrenica with a different perspective than the usual one. So basically, there are places like Srebrenica, for example, Auschwitz, or other memorial sites in Europe, which develop this kind of so-called black tourism. So basically, people are just going there to learn about history facts, which are black facts of our common European history. Srebrenica is the same, but the problem is that Srebrenica is different than Auschwitz itself. Auschwitz itself, there were a deportation of people to Auschwitz in a concentration camp. Srebrenica itself with its own population was, as many people say, the biggest concentration in a camp in Europe in that period. So basically, like in Srebrenica happened something different. It was people coming back to their city, but it was also the place in which their family members were killed, their relation, their dreams were stopped, and so on. The problem after wartime, and since the genocide memorial was set on, is that in one hand is giving a really important lesson about history and genocide, because it's really well made. Is on the spot actually where there was the United Nations Dutch battalion site. In front of it there is the cemetery where the people are buried, but that place is at the entrance of Srebrenica. So basically most of the people just come to visit the memorial site, but they doesn't go even to the Srebrenica city, and just they take a picture of it, they post it, for example, on social media and so on, and the only one image people has of Srebrenica is the dark image of Srebrenica. So of the genocide side of the war period, or of the commemoration of the 11th of July. So basically survivors who are, let's say, who survived all this period, they doesn't have anything about that. It makes even their life to be more difficult through that kind of tourism than instead to help them somehow to survive in their life out there. So bringing people with a new perspective, with a new way to discover the area, it's really important, because in one hand, yes, you can learn about the history, but in the other hand, you can also discover that area for something else. That is the nature, that are the survivors that come back to live there, and the way how they are living there. It's giving a bit of help to different families. Basically, when we make our activities, we always involving the local communities. So when we go to hike, we go to have a lunch to a family of farmers and so on. So for that is a little income that can help them to, let's say, have something more in their life. They cannot live out of it, but it's, let's say, from the economical point of view, it's a way that you support them a little bit way of living. In the other hand, it's a, let's say, from a point of view, a much more bigger help at emotional level, because you are living, like, for example, in a village that before wartime had 1,000 inhabitants. Today, all those villages have a population of 10 persons, 15 persons. They are isolated, but in this way, they can connect with the rest of the world. They are emotionally getting involved, and it's not generating this process of, okay, I'm going just there to eat. It's like generating a little friendship between people. Boston are really welcoming people. They open their house as it is your house. They make you really feel at home somehow, and this is really generating this kind of a positive relation between the people. This is, let's say, the biggest, let's say, outcome of this kind of a way to make a tourism. Also, like, the products that we use are taken by other farmers. So like, for example, cheese or other kind of stuff, meat or vegetables and this kind of things. So it also gave always a little bit of a support, but it's also really good for people because are vegetables that we cannot define bio. Bio, it's something that you can define in a city, but in a rural area, it's just a food grown up as we are used to do it from centuries. So only in a natural way as it was done before. So you can really taste it, that it's different, not made by a company that make bio products, but is made by this relation with the land, which is something different. Also about the taste, but it's also the way how you make it, how you are connected to your land. The difficulties are many, because actually Bosnia itself is a country that it has a process that beside the one of leaving the rural areas for the bigger city, younger generation are leaving the country mostly for Germany or United States or Australia or whatever, to other countries to search a better condition of living. We live in a kind of political instability that doesn't make sure the life for the young generation. We have a really high level of political corruption, which means like the people that are getting the good jobs are the ones that are in the political parties. So you can study to become a doctor, but if you have not your father or your mother which is in a good political position, you will not get that job. Someone that is less capacity than you will get that job, and this makes this a feeling of to the new generation that they cannot change anything, so they prefer to leave the country. Basically, Srebrenica is a city that there are each year much less people living. So basically, younger people, they are leaving it as they finish their high school, they go to university, and they usually never come back to live there. People that doesn't go to the university search for a job abroad in Germany. So basically, it's a city that has less human resources each year. Of course, the people that we collaborate with in the villages, they are also pretty much getting old. So they are all over, most of them, they are over 60 years. So in the next 20 years, you cannot expect so much. So there are really open questions how to make a way of living that is really connected to the nature interesting to younger people, because they don't see it anymore today. They see their life on Instagram, on a mobile, so on this city life and things like that. So it's, let's say, the biggest difficulty. It's now like how make younger people aware of the richness of their land and of a way to do things different than the one in the mainstream.
Thank you. And my last question before we start the discussion with the audience. Maybe Christian, where do you see Srebrenica in 2035?
Sorry, can you repeat? I didn't
yes.
catch.
Where do you see Srebrenica in the year of 2035? So in like 10 years.
Well, it's not easy to answer a question, but I mean, I was following the answer Irvin was giving to the question you made, and I think that more or less I have to answer the same. The main obstacle and we have to face is given by the politics, because every time there's something that try to change in that city, we cannot forget that some period later there are elections, and politicians are still blowing on what happened and to ethnical divisions. So every time you make a step forward, then there is the opportunity to make a step back. And so I really hope that people will get the courage to turn this page and to go on, and maybe so in the next 20 years to find a different situation. What is in my hope is the encounter I have some years ago with one of those family Irvin was talking about for hospitality, and it was the very first time they had foreign people in their house. They were so excited and maybe also a little bit scared, because there are people that you don't know. Yes, you know Irvin, but is bringing people that you don't know. I remember that the morning after we slept there, there was the mother and talking to the telephone with his son that was living in the town, so far away from the village. And she said, yes, everything was good. People are okay, so they are nice. She was excited and also a little bit scared about it. But also she was so excited that when in the end she told us, I'm very happy that everything was good. Next year, I'd like to see you again. So this is the impact of sustainable tourism, and hope there is something that will develop from these feelings. I also remember the words of her husband, who was briefly giving a summary of the 7 years that it took to from when he left the village for the war, after he came back and was able to reconstruct, to rebuild a part of the house and to have his wife back. So 7 years they didn't see each other. He lost 2 sons during the escape of Srebrenica, about the Serbians were killing. And he thought that he had no anger against the Serbians, because living in Bosnia or in that area is a tough life, and is, as I may say, naturally pushed to be friendly to each other, to all the people. But the real problem are politicians, because he said, if you leave us to live in peace without any politician that are remembering and wanted to reface the ethnic division, we know how to live together. We know how to live together in peace. So I really hope that those kind of people will get their future in their hands.
Thank you. So I asked my colleague Cornelia, are there any comments already or any questions in the chat, or does anybody has a question and would like to talk? Please feel free.
No, there are no comments in the chat at the moment.
Maybe a question about the progress.
I had a question for Christian.
Yeah.
How did you get from where you are around Alexander Lager to Srebrenica? Because I think it's not really easy, right? With train travel to Bosnia from countries, or is it?
Yeah. I mean, there are some options. I usually go with my car because I'm managing a travel for all people that wants to join. And also for the kind of experience we are going to live in Srebrenica, is better to have a car to move, because we are out in the wood, and very often we move for getting supplies, or also to go to visit some places. So to be independent with a car is can give you some advantages. And to go from where I live to Srebrenica are more or less 10 hours driving without any stop. Obviously, to have to add the time for a break. But there are also the option to go by bus. There are some buses that Irvin is usually using this option to move, to go and to come back from Srebrenica. And
or by
the
walking.
bus, or working, yes. The bus driver, we know, is very skillful, and he can speed up. Is really, really, really fast. Yep.
Okay. Any other question or comment?
Yes, I would like to ask Irvin, how did you manage to build the village from the point of the authorization? I suppose how does it manage? Do you say I build a village now? I have a land, or it's a land from a commune, from a
Municipality.
what?
Municipality.
Municipality, yes. Okay, yes, that's what I'm looking.
No, so basically, when I started to have the idea to build this village, I checked the different places in the municipality. So basically, I was looking for an area that was, let's say, in the woods, not so simple to reach, so that not everyone can really come, but just people that really want to come there, but also to have this place that is really I searched different places. At the end, a friend of mine told me, look, I have the perfect place for you. You can arrive by car pretty much close. It was actually the land of his grandfather, family, and so on. He spent the period of the wartime there. And it's really an area when I saw it that it was perfect for me because it was next to a river, next to a creek, flat, with all the mountains and the hills around and forest basically all around. You had only 500 meters to walk. So basically I decided to bought 7,000 square meters there. So it's actually a private land. It was not a land of the municipality and so on. Let's say that in the life, sometimes you simply get lucky. Basically, when we were starting this project, many Italian newspapers were interested to it. They made many interviews. Then, you know, since one journalist started to make an interview on the topic, all the other basically copy and paste. So many newspapers started to contact for interview and things like that. And there was at one moment Italian newspaper from that it's based in Turin. They make an interview. And basically one morning, a director of one foundation close to Turin, he was sitting in the office reading the newspaper. In the newspaper, he read about our project and gave in charge a guy to follow our project for the upcoming 1 year. The guy got in contact with Christian. I didn't know anything about that. For 1 year, they followed our project. At the end of 1 year, they had a kind of a positive impact and they decided to invest on it. And basically, they gave an amount of money which we could start to build this place here. In the same moment, an Italian teacher of art in the high school, she also read the same journal. She also get in touch with us. When she saw that we were starting to build the village, she came to visit and she decided to finance one house from her side. 2 Italian girls going to the Peace March for the commemoration in Srebrenica. They heard about the project, so they decided also to finance one other house. And things happened like in that way. So basically, it was like we never applied a project, we didn't get any support by the municipality, but just the people that were believing in this idea. From their own resources, they decided to invest in it by seeing something important, I think, not only for the future of this area, but also, let's say, a bit more as an example also for mankind, how to live in nature somehow. From the point of view of authorization, Bosnia is a kind of a strange place. So basically, it's sometimes you have to do a lot of bureaucracy. Sometimes you have the other. So basically, when I asked how it's working for authorization to build those kind of houses, basically we have a kind of legislation that is allowing them basically without authorization. So basically, as there are houses in wood, they are considered as temporary houses and not as a house. Basically, like as in Italy, you have the rule, like for example, that on a land that is meant for agriculture, you can put a van, a camper, and you can live in it. But it's like that. So basically, you have just to show where you are going to build it, but you don't need any kind of other permissions.
Thank you. I have a question. Do you or did you have problems with mines? Because what about the mining fields? Are there any around? Or how do you know where they are? Or when you go hiking or something? Okay, so
yeah, basically mine fields in Srebrenica are located around what was the safe area of the United Nations. So basically they are not in the whole municipality, but just in specific area that were the one marking the line between the Bosnian army after by the United Nations area and the Serbian army. So usually around this line there were the minefields. The 60% of them are cleaned. The other 40% are marked. So basically, you know, by going from the main way they are always marked like 1-2 kilometers before. And basically it's like during our hiking trails and so on, there is no kind of risk to end up in a mining field. So basically it's pretty much sure from that point of view. From my personal experience, it's easy because when I was like discovering this area, I was not taking care so much about these things of minefield. So I was always trying to build some new path through the forest and things like that. So 2 times I personally entered in a minefield, but it's like I was lucky when I get out. But usually in what we offer, it's impossible to get inside.
Yeah, thank you. Yes, Sebastian, please, you would like to say something.
Yes, well, thank you very much, Irvin and colleagues, for this very inspiring project. You said something before, Irvin, about that people that are living there, especially young people, they are like looking at their phones and dreaming about what they see on TikTok or whatever. But you want to show them also the richness of their own land that surrounds them and the potential that they can have there. Can you say if you can reach them with this? Do you have success with this, or is it a lost cause against the dreams of richness and TikTok and whatever the digital world promises us?
It's not a simple thing, but basically it's also the way sometimes how we use the social networks. So basically, many youngsters, before that I came here, they didn't know anything about the potentiality and the beauty of their land. So basically we have a canyon that is the Drina Canyon. It's the 3rd highest canyon in Europe, in the world. It's really beautiful. It's amazing. It's pretty much wild area. They didn't even know that it was existing in their municipality, something like that. Basically, sometimes at the beginning when I was discovering these places and just taking a picture and posting it on Facebook, they were like asking me when we were meeting, hey man, where is this spot? And so, it's here, you can arrive by. Oh, really? That is here? I never knew. I'm living here from 20 years, 15 years. Can you bring me there? So basically, it's like always sometimes how you use social networks. So basically, they are really a tools that sometimes can you like take out the focus from real life. But if used in the proper way, you can also like put a seed in the mind of people and make it, okay, you have also this in your place. It's really beautiful. And sometimes they are also really looking like, they are also, sometimes they have this problem that they have the fear to start something new, and that is not usual. So basically, you have also to give them the example that sometimes they can live out of what their dreams are. That is maybe like, let's say, a path that is more difficult than the classical one, just to find a job well paid, to go and have this kind of feeling of security. But it's like life, it's also something else. I mean, real life, it starts with insecurity. It started to take some risk. We develop as mankind by taking risk and by the feeling of curiosity to discover something new that it's unknown. And the unknown is like, let's say, you have to give the example to them that what was considered a crazy idea that will never work out. So basically, when I started to build this place here, almost no one believed that it will ever function. Like today, some people, it's starting to ask me, Irvin, well, do you have still some place in your land? Maybe I will build also a house and you can rent it. We can see how. So basically, sometimes you have to show that a crazy idea, if you really believe in that, they can become true. And you just do it by giving an example. And sometimes someone can follow it. Of course, it's not going to be a, let's say, it's not going a mass of people to follow it, but you can inspire some other youngsters like to believe in their ideas and try to make them dreams reach reality.
Thank you. Anybody else? So if there are no questions anymore or no comments, I would like to thank you all for participating, for taking the time to listen to Irvin, Christian, and Fonger. I hope you all got the different point of view from Irvin's wonderful place where he lives and what he built up. That is also, like you said, to live the dream, to have the courage to do it. And yes, so I wish you the very best.